But let's talk about Harry and Meghan. Should we look at the clip first? Have we got... I know I'm saying no, we shouldn't look at the clip first. We've already played it out once. But anyway, we'll come back to that. Harry is out this morning. It's first release of this new Netflix documentary. Here's Prince Harry right now.
The trauma that I had, I was never really aware of. It was never discussed. I didn't really talk about it, and I suppressed it like most youngsters would have done. But then when it all came fizzing out, I was bouncing off the walls. I was like, what is going on here? I'm now feeling everything as opposed to being numb. The biggest struggle for me was the people, no one around me really could help. I didn't have that support structure, that network, or that expert advice to identify what was actually going on with me. Unfortunately, like most of us, the first time you really consider therapy is when you're lying on the floor in the fetal position, probably wishing that you dealt with some of this stuff.
Well, I'm going to have to say there will be people who have been in service and who have been in the armed forces. We talk to them on Veterans Voice on a regular basis, people who have suffered all sorts of trauma, PTSD, that kind of thing. You can't really fault him for feeling like that. But he does have a tendency to kind of overshare. You know, if he wants to talk to a therapist about it, fine. But does he really need to tell us all about it?
Well, having watched the first episode, I've been travelling since having watched it. It is, I think most people are revealing all in this and their feelings. So I don't think he's any different from any of the other service people who have been interviewed as part of this programme. And I have to say, the episode I saw, that comes in, I think, in the second episode, that particular clip. I'd have to say I thought it was a pretty good start, and I'm actually going to look forward to seeing the remaining episodes, because I do think the personal stories of all the service personnel involved in it are very interesting. There's some interesting sort of backstories and sort of cultural sort of aspects to the various stories that they've highlighted. But obviously Harry's going to be the main focus. I think the only thing you could say is that when he comes out with these revelations of when they happened, there was quite a lot of support from him. We've seen that William and his father were there for him. So again, you've got to realise that yes, he did suffer in Afghanistan and did clearly, like so many service personnel who would have served there, would have seen some horrific things. So it's understandable that he has felt like that, and that was his driving point to setting up Invictus Games back in 2014 when he returned second time from Afghanistan. So, and this is something I think was very important to him, and everyone thought when he set that up, what a good thing, and he has been 100% committed to the development of the Invictus Games. So I think from that point of view, this documentary does highlight him in a very positive light.
Right. And is Meghan in it, as far as we're aware, or not really?
Very briefly, you could hear her talking to him in a bit of the first episode when they turned up at a reception in New York, and she's wearing that, was well photographed in that big red dress. Right. And in a sort of moment saying, well, we've forgotten how to do this, and both of them were a bit nervous and apprehensive. But very much it's Harry's show. Meghan is a bit part player in this, and bearing in mind that Invictus is very much his driving force, and with the other service personnel that he set it up with, Meghan is not part of this documentary. It's about Harry.
Right, although she is coming to the opening of the Invictus Games, isn't she?
Coming to the closing.
Or the closing.
That's what she's... Yes, but again, I think we have to look at it. She did appear in Toronto. She has been at previous ones, and I think she has every right, probably, whether the people... To be there and be supportive of her husband. She wouldn't be the first person to do that at something that's very important. But yes, I believe she is going to be making a speech at the closing ceremony of this of the Invictus Games. So yes, she will be there, but Harry will be there, of course, for the whole time. He's coming into the Well Child before he goes to Dusseldorf, but you would expect him to be there for the whole time, given that he basically is the overall... he has been involved in every Invictus game since it started in 2014.
Yes, indeed. And also just going back to what he was talking about and the time of his life that he was talking about coming back from Afghanistan, you know, I don't remember him being particularly, you know, locked away, or, as you say, he had probably plenty of access to help if he so required it. But I don't remember, wasn't that the period of time when he was sort of knocking around London, doing a bit of carousing, going off to Vegas, that kind of thing?
Well, yes, but that might have been part of the sort of the behaviour, which was the fallout from that, because you hear quite often service people who've been in a frontline situation, when they're set free, they sort of slightly behave, go in an over-top manner, and maybe that was part of the manifestations, trying to give him some level of defence here for the things that he got up to in Las Vegas when he was going out with his mates. But I have to say, I do think, and we've seen interviews when he was with William and other things, and what he said in Spare and other documentaries, that no one was there for support him. And this is where people say perhaps there is a little changing of the reality of what actually was going on at the time. And I'm sure, given, you know, within the royal family, if he wanted to get help, there would have been help. Although, of course, you know, whether William or his father, they wouldn't have experienced quite the sort of what he'd seen in Afghanistan. So again, his experiences were probably more intense than theirs were, but it is interesting that you clearly out of that.
You know, listen, I'm not going to ridicule him for it. I'm not going to diminish him for it. But you can't help but thinking it's a bit self-indulgent. You know, there's an awful lot of people who struggle, an awful lot of people who just get on with it, and a lot of people who find a solution to it without having to tell the entire world about exactly what happened every second of it.
Well, in this case, because it's actually highlighting service personnel's troubles, he was one, and I suppose his troubles were one of the reasons, or his reaction to serving in Afghanistan was what he realised he felt something needed to be done. And he's probably trying to think, well, I'm putting it into context, one of the reasons why I decided to do this. So I think that you've got to cut him some slack on that, because overall, I think, as I say, the first episode I've been able to watch in its entirety, I was very interested by the stories, the Ukraine stories, the person who's from South Korea, very interesting. There are lots of fascinating insights, of which, okay, Harry is part of it. I don't want him to be the centre of attention. Ultimately, I want in this programme it to highlight the people who are participating in Invictus games in a competitive level, and that's what it's trying to do. Although inevitably, Harry's story is going to be the thing that's probably going to drive the publicity to make people watch it. So there's a slight chicken and an egg situation there with regard to how they have to approach it.
Yes, absolutely. Closer to home, he won't be seeing his father when he's popping to London, we understand, but we're told King Charles overruled William when he was seen driving Andrew to church up in Balmoral. William apparently didn't want to do it, we hear, but Charles made him.
Well, I think there are family tensions when it comes to dealing with Prince Andrew. But I think what it does show is that Andrew is obviously, at the moment, he has no public life. But I think what the king is keen to do is to try to give him some sense of normality. So when there is a big private occasion for the royal family, when they gather at key moments of the year, and obviously this time with the approaching to the anniversary of both Andrew and the king's mother, again, to see him in a public role, but at a private function. He's not doing anything in terms of fulfilling a royal family obligation. He's just part of the family, and you know, blood is thicker than water, and that's very much probably the king's view to it. Well, we have to try and give him as normal life as possible and be part of the family. You can't always choose your family members, and Andrew is in the royal family.
Absolutely right. Rupert, good to see you. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Rupert Bell reporting in there on the latest from the world of the royals.